Ready?
Not interested.
No, not
Sir,
interested.
sir.
Let me try. Yeah, try.
What do you guys want? Don't you do the no solicitor signs?
Mr. Sir, I apologize about that. My name is Luke Worrell.
I'm Shion Rashid.
And we'd like to be talking to you today about two Supreme Court cases with you. The two we'll be discussing is Baker versus Carr and Shaw versus Reno, both of which involve the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment. The cases of both Baker and Shaw versus Reno dealt with the issue of appropriation of and redistricting. While these cases were heard several decades apart, they share a number of important similarities that have important implications for the way in which the United States handles issues of electoral redistricting. Redistricting. Case number one. Baker versus Carr was a landmark Supreme Court case that dealt with the issue of voting rights and redistricting.
Voting rights.
The case was brought to the court in 1962, and it had significant impact on the political landscape of the United States.
Landscape.
The case involved Charles W. Baker, a resident of Tennessee, who challenged the state's apportionment system, and Joe Carr, the Secretary of State of Tennessee, who was responsible for implementing the system. In Tennessee, as in many other states, the legislative districts were not redrawn to reflect changes in population. As a result, some districts had many more residents than others, which meant that the votes of some citizens weighed more than those of others.
More than.
In 1960, Baker filed a lawsuit in federal district court challenging the apportionment of the Tennessee General Assembly. He argued that the system was unfair and violated the principle of one person, one vote. Let's say that again. One person, one vote.
You got that? Say it with me.
One person, one vote. Carr, on the other hand, argued that the reapportionment was a political question that should be left to the states. He claimed that the issue was not justable because it was not a matter for the courts to decide. The district court case dismissed his case, ruling in favor of Carr that it was a political question that could not be decided by the courts.
Can't be decided.
Not decided. After the dismissal, Baker appealed the decision to the U.S. Supreme Court, arguing that the district court's ruling violated the Equal Protection Act of the 14th Amendment. Equal Protection Act Clause, let's do that again. I'm sorry, I messed it up. Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment. As a result, the Supreme Court agreed to hear the case. The Supreme Court heard the oral arguments in Baker versus Carr on April 19th, 1961. April 19th, 1961.
Yep.
The main issue in the case was whether the federal courts had jurisdiction to hear challenges to the state legislative apportionment. The Supreme Court ruled in favor of Baker in a 6-2 decision. A 6-2 decision.
That's 8 total.
8 total, yes. The court held that the district court had mistaken in dismissing Baker's case that reapportionment was a justiciable issue that the courts could decide. In its opinion, the Supreme Court rejected Carr's argument that the issue was not justiciable. The court held that the district court had jurisdiction to hear Baker's clause and that the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment applied to the state's apportionment systems. The court also held that the Tennessee apportionment system violated the Equal Protection Clause. Violated because it gave some citizens more weight than others. The court ordered the state to redraw its legislative districts to comply with the principle of one person, one vote. I lost my place. Overall, Baker versus Carr was a landmark case because it established the principle of one person, one vote, and gave federal courts the power to hear challenges to state legislative apportionment. Golly. This decision had significant implications for the balance of power between the federal government and the states, and for the way the legislative districts were drawn across the country. It also helped to establish the principle of judicial review, which is the power of the courts to strike down laws that violate the Constitution.
Strike down.
That is case one. Last one of the day.
Yep. It's been a long day. Sure, I'm tired.
Big day at RuckerBro&Co.
Yep.
Good evening,
Hi,
sir. My name is Luke Worrell,
I'm Shihan Rashid.
and we are RuckerBro&Co. And we'd like to talk to you about a few court cases today, if that's all right.
All right.
That's
Nice
all right.
to meet you.
Okay. The two court cases we're going to talk about will be Baker versus Carr and Shaw versus Renault, both of which involve the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment.
14th Amendment.
14th Amendment. Make sure you remember that. The cases of Baker versus Shaw and Shaw versus Renault dealt with the issue of reapportionment and redistricting. Excuse me, sorry. While these cases were heard several decades apart, wow, they share a number of important similarities that have important implications for the way in which the United States handles issues of electoral redistricting.
Give me
Now,
more.
we're going to now talk to you about case 2. My colleague here is going to take it away. Michelle?
Thank you. So, Shaw versus Renault was a case that was heard by the United States Supreme Court in 1993.
1993.
The case involved the redistricting of North Carolina's congressional districts, which had been carried out by the state legislature after the 1990 census.
1993.
The redistricting plan created a majority-minority district designed to increase the representation of African American voters in Congress. The district was highly irregularly shaped.
FedEx over there. Sorry, I don't know.
We're a better delivery service,
Yeah,
anyways.
definitely.
Sure.
Oh, see, Jesus.
Yeah, no, that is
RuckerBro&Co.
terrible.
You just hit a curb. That's
Wow.
I'm sorry.
That's-
Yeah.
let's go.
I'm sorry. You didn't deserve that.
Let's
Y'all are-
run it
yeah.
back. Where were we?
So,
1990?
yep.
1990.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. The redistricting plan created. Oh, I said that already.
Yep.
The district was highly irregularly shaped, and it wound together various counties and cities in the state. Several white voters in North Carolina brought the case, arguing that the redistricting plan was unconstitutional because it was based on racial considerations rather than neutral districting principles. The Supreme Court ruling in Shaw versus Renault was a 5-4
5-4.
decision in favor of the plaintiffs. The court held that the redistricting plan violated the Equal Protection Clause of the what amendment? What?
14.
14th
Precisely. 14th Amendment to the United States Constitution because it was not narrowly tailored to serve a compelling state interest. The court acknowledged that increasing minority representation was a legitimate state interest, but found that the irregular shape of the district and the fact that it included so many disparate communities indicated that the redistricting plan was based primarily on race.
Wow.
The main argument for the plaintiffs was that the redistricting plan was unconstitutional because it was based on racial considerations rather than neutral districting principles. They argued that the district's highly irregular shape and the inclusion of so many disparate communities indicated that the redistricting plan was based primarily on what? Race.
Race.
Yeah.
Yes.
Just highlighting
Race.
Not the race of ready, set, go race.
Yeah.
Race as in
No F1.
no F1.
You know, this is not an F1 household, right?
Yeah.
Or,
It is, but we don't know that. We're just assuming. Go
Yeah.
on.
Yeah.
Go on.
The defendants argued that the redistricting plan was designed to increase minority representation in Congress, which was a legitimate state interest. The opinion of the court was that the redistricting plan violated the Equal Protection Clause of which amendment?
the 14.
14th Amendment.
To the United States Constitution because it was not narrowly tailored to serve a compelling state interest. The court acknowledged that the increasing minority representation was a legitimate state interest, but found that the irregular shape of the district and the fact that it included so many disparate communities indicated that the redistricting
We're really
plan
just highlighting.
was based primarily on what?
Race.
Yes.
Wow.
The court's decision.
Wow. It's just so moving.
We'll cut this out. Yes, okay.
Will we?
Yeah, no.
Oh, I'm sorry. Where were we?
I'm intrigued. You got me in.
I'm glad. The court's decision established the principle that redistricting plans must be based on neutral principles and cannot be designed.
Wow. What good stuff. All right. Sorry, I'm interrupting.
And cannot be designed primarily to increase the representation of any particular racial or ethnic group. Yep. Can't be based on what?
Race.
Race.
Shaw versus Reno is a landmark case. Landmark.
Landmark.
Because
super big.
it established the principle that redistricting plans must be based on neutral.
And not race.
Wow! How do you know this already? You're learning so fast.
You're just such a fast learner there. Oh.
Cannot be based. No, must be based on neutral principles and cannot be based primarily to increase the representation of any particular racial or ethnic group.
Yes.
The case has had a significant impact on redistricting practices in the United States and has been cited in subsequent legal challenges to redistricting plans in various states.
Wow.
All right. Oh, wait,
Oh,
that's it.
that's it.
Yeah.
Thank
Okay.
you so much
Yeah.
for your time.
Okay.
Sir, if you agree with this notion, this stuff we've talked about today,
If
I'd
you
like
like what you heard
Yeah.
about what amendment?
The 14th.
14th Amendment.
Yeah.
About
between all
what?
that. Race.
Yes. Yes. Exactly. If you agree with that, if you
Okay.
commend it, don't sign. But if you love it, if
If
you
you
like
feel
it,
some type of way
I have
about
to
it,
shake his hand just to show
Yeah.
this is not because of his race.
Yep.
I look
Yep.
at him
Yep.
at an unbased.
Yep.
that's wonderful.
Yep.
So,
Yeah.
we're gonna have you
Yep.
sign
Just
here.
sign that and we'll get
and,
going.
Yeah, we'll
Yeah,
get out of your hair.
Yep.
Thank you so much, sir. Wow. And you just have a
Beautiful
great day.
signature.
Thank you.
And remember, RuckerBro&Co.
Yep.
14th Amendment.
Yes.
RuckerBro&Co.
RuckerBro&Co.
Yeah, yeah.
It's delivered to you
Rucker
by
Bro&Co.
RuckerBro&Co.
Yep. Better than FedEx.
Better than FedEx. We don't
Thank
have
you.
FedEx. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Good day.
We've been told to talk about these cases from the the boss, but
Yeah.
what are your thoughts on this?
I really like Baker versus Carr. One person, one vote.
Yeah, one
makes
person, one
makes a
vote.
lot of sense. I mean,
Right.
you are one single person,
Exactly.
so it wouldn't make sense to be able to
It's fair across all
contribute.
boards.
Yeah,
Yeah.
contributing more than one vote doesn't make sense as
Right.
a single person.
I
I'm not
agree.
two people, am I? No.
No, definitely not. No, it's
definitely not.
It was definitely a mandatory and a very necessary court case
Agreed.
that really shaped
Yep.
America in a good way.
Yep. And with Shaw versus Reno.
Shaw versus Reno, yeah.
I support what they were going for. They wanted to help uplift minorities.
Right.
All for it.
Right.
But in the process, that sets forward like the possibility for it to be used negatively. And
Right.
we don't want that, do we?
No, definitely
certainly not.
It was almost to the point where they were trying to help the minority so much that it was raising the minority over the majority.
Yeah.
And which is counterintuitive.
Exactly. We do not want that. We want equality.
Equality.
Yes. As the one person, one vote.
Exactly.
Both equal.
One
You want it
and
to
one.
be equal. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it makes perfect sense.
It needs to be a balance. You can't just.
Right.
I can't draw the my district in the shape of the Little Dipper, can I?
No,
It
no.
must be in the shape of something that makes sense.
Yeah, something
Maybe,
linear, maybe
yeah.
rectangular. That's linear.
Maybe what car? Cube. Who makes a cube?
The Nissan
Cube.
Nissan
yeah.
Cube.
Yeah, maybe that would make more sense.
That would probably make more sense than say an F1 car,
Exactly.
very curvy, very irregular.
Yeah, strange shape.
We're getting off topic here, but I see what you're going
Yeah,
for.
yeah.
It makes perfect sense. Both
Yeah.
cases, although had different little interpretations or different little things they added, both were very necessary to
Exactly.
making a just and fair government.
Exactly. Hey, and
we're here at our
would you
next
look at that?
location.
Yeah.
All right, we will
Wow.
see you later.
I
I was trying to make the camera fall. Hello, RuckerBro&Co.
Baker versus Carr and Shaw versus Reno are two landmark cases that are similar in that they both deal with issues related to the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment
14th.
of the United States Constitution. However, the two cases are different in the specific issues that they address. Baker versus Carr dealt with the principle of one person,
One person, one vote.
and established that states must create legislative districts that are roughly equal in population to ensure that that each person's vote has equal weight.
Better lighting.
Shaw versus Reno, on the other hand, dealt with
Sorry, continue, Shion.
Shaw versus Reno, on the other hand, dealt with racial gerrymandering and established that the redistricting process cannot be used to perpetuate racial discrimination. Both cases are significant in that they help to establish important legal principles related to representation and equal protection under the law, and both were critical victories for voting and civil rights advocates. The 14th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution is a critical component of both Baker v. Carr and Shaw v. Reno, as both cases involved issues related to equal protection under the law. The Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment guarantees that all citizens are entitled to equal protection of the laws, and this principle has been critical in the ongoing struggle for civil rights and equal representation in government. Baker v. Carr helped to ensure that the principle of one person, one vote was applied to state legislative districts, while Shaw v. Reno helped to prevent the redistricting process from being used to discriminate against minority groups. Both cases illustrate the importance of the 14th Amendment in protecting citizens' rights and promoting equal representation in government. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your time, and if you've heard all that you have heard and like it, I'd like you to sign here in your signature of agreement, sir.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Wow,
And
good to
wow, that's
Great to meet you, gentlemen.
Great to meet you. Thank you for
Boy,
your
do
time.
I love America, right? Am I right, boys?
You're right. You're right. Thank you.
Have a good day.
night. Have a great night.
Hi, Mr. Rucker. I'm at the NAB concert.
What's up, Mr. Rucker?
Yep.
Hey, give him a free hundred.
I have Akram with me. I have Akram, Hassan, Sam. I have all of your past students plus your current students.